Big Yellow is one of my favorite channels in the world of competitive Pokemon YouTube, and a personal inspiration for my own videos. Big Yellow's content mainly focuses on the intricacies and wonders of Pokemon's first generation. Generation 1 is often misunderstood and hated for its strange mechanical quirks, so Big Yellow has helped to counteract these sentiments a bit, showcasing the unique qualities, depth, and charm that can be found in Generation 1. But Big Yellow's channel has a lot more to offer than just that. Big Yellow seems to have many passions worthy of dedicated videos with subjects including Pokemon, competitive fighting games, the Worms franchise, Five Nights at Freddy's, some game called Insaniquarium Deluxe, and even deep dives into specific colors of Lego brick, such as the teal and brown Lego bricks. Thank you for taking the time to chat with me today. How are you, Big Yellow?
I am fantastic. That was a very good intro. Thank you.
I
wasn't expecting. I completely forgot I did a FNAF video. Like genuinely, that was like such a.
I was
blast
just
of
scrolling
pads.
through, seeing the range of your talents, and there's Five Nights at Freddy's, Club Penguin, even. That's a game.
Club Penguin one. Yeah.
I watched that yesterday.
Really? Thank you. I think the audio's really messed up in it, but it was a fun video.
Oh, I didn't notice.
Like it's just such a. Oh, maybe it fixed itself. You never know. But that's such a. I need to do more like that. Just like truly just out there topics. But they're very fun. They're very fun.
Thanks for taking the time. And
no trouble at all. I really appreciate it. It's a nice opportunity getting to come on and yap about.
We love to yap.
Whatever's necessary. Exactly.
First question: your name, Big Yellow. A lot of people asked about it. My theory is that is it a reference to Big Blue, like F-Zero, but it's Big Yellow? Like, is it a joke? Or is it something else?
It is something else. It's just like there's not a huge meaning behind it. It's just a name I got like way back, like a very old friend group, because there was a Big Black, and that's the OG Big. And then I was like, oh, what if we had a little theme going? And then I was Big Yellow, and then there was a Big Green, and then there was a Big Blue, but we didn't like the Big Blue guy very much. So we were like, this isn't funny.
You guys were like
and
a crew of bigs.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And then we started dropping it, and I'm the only remaining Big, I think. Like I haven't talked to him in years, right? But I
the
think
legacy
I'm the
remains.
only remaining Big. Yeah, exactly.
Well, there you go. That's cute. I like that. So you're kind of known as one of the main Gen 1 enthusiasts on YouTube, talking about such niche fellows as Pinsir and
that's my goal.
Whatever's
right there.
going on in RBY 7U or whatever the heck. What draws you specifically to Gen 1? Because it's kind of a hard sell for most games. It's a very weird generation.
No, absolutely no. You do see a lot of people who talk about it, just kind of like, hey, this is. I mean, a lot of people who learn about it even, right? Like not just completely from the outside looking in. Like they do learn about the tier and they've got a little bit of prior knowledge of it, and maybe they'll give it a shot and they're just like, this is like so not for me, right? And it is a very acquired taste. I totally get it. I think a big part of what makes Gen 1 click for me is, well, it's a combination of a lot of things. One, I think I really enjoy how, in a weird way, how accessible the tier is, right? Because it in Gen 2 have that kind of like, they've got the whole thing of like, there's no EVs, right? And especially given how like limited the tool sets of a lot of Pokemon are in Gen 1, and how much time the meta has had to marinate, it's so easy to just chuck 6 Pokemon together, right? Like, I don't mean to like undermine team building and such, right? Obviously, there are very good players who would have a better idea of what to do. But there's like something really charming about Gen 1 to me, where it almost feels like the Pokemon, because what each Pokemon can do is so inherently limited in a way, it really kind of, you get this sort of attachment to them, right? There's something really charming about the simplicity of it all. But at the same time, that simplicity is very charming. But Gen 1 is so intricate because there's so many like janky little interactions that you only get from Gen 1. And I think honestly that's a big part of why I was so drawn to it, because I don't play a ton of Pokemon. I'm definitely like a more of a learner than a player, right? I have no strive or drive to be good at Pokemon, right? I'm not competitive at all. I just find it really fun to learn about. And I think Gen 1 is the gen where that really shines through, because it's got a very dedicated community. Well, I've got every tier does, but it's just like, you know what I mean? It's just something about Gen 1's community that really clicks with me. And like, all the little like quirks Gen 1 has. It's like bugs, it's strange interactions, just so much that's things that are unique to Gen 1 and Gen 1 alone. And I think I mentioned something like this in one of the videos. I forget which one it is. But because a lot of the Pokemon are so inherently limited, any little thing that can separate a Pokemon from another Pokemon gives it a shot. And that's so awesome to me, right? Like I think it was the Magneton one, like the whole thing of, what was it? Magneton having the strongest Thunderbolt out of the strongest Thunderbolt in the game out of the pure electric types, which is just such a tiny niche, right? Over Zapdos.
Yeah,
but
like
it's something, and people actually look into that and explore what it can do with that. And I love that kind of thing. It just gives every Pokemon so much, like, not personality, but sort of like implied personality, if that makes sense. It's so quirky and silly because like the things you can say about Gen 1, some of them are so wild, but it works in practice. It really does. And there's also the fact that the Gen 1 has so many, like, despite how old it is and such, the fact that it's still developing even now. And then the fact that there's so many little tiers. There's still tiers that I haven't really looked into at all, and I've been meaning to look into like RBYSU forever.
That's the appeal of Gen 1 to me as well, is that team building is less of a emphasis, so you can kind of just throw together a team and start playing. You won't be as good as the best fellows, but
yeah, no, you make a very good point. I've said this too to people who are like interested in getting into Gen 1. Just steal a sample team, right? Steal a sample team and hop on, and eventually you'll kind of figure things out. And like that, I know that's maybe not the most fun. It doesn't sound like fun advice, but like you'll learn more doing that than just hopping on with like, oh, lead electrode is gonna shake things up. This is the future. And another thing as well, this is very charming to me. Like the fact that in RBY, specifically OU, you can refer to a team with the 3 Pokemon on the team that aren't Tauros, Chansey, Snorlax, right? Like Star Egg Me. That's a team, Star Egg Me. Or like Star Egg Gar. Or what's it? Yeah, that's it. I love that.
Gen 1 is cool because it's almost like an anti-competitive game that is somehow pushed further by passionate people anyway. Because it's completely imbalanced. There are such limited options, and there are all these ridiculous mechanics and very limited counterplay to certain things, yet people find ways to adapt anyway and optimize, and it still sees development.
No, that's so right, actually. And you make a good point as well. Like, a lot of the things about Gen 1 seem super uncompetitive, right? Like, freeze, right? You're just, like, there's a 10%... You switch on an Ice Beam, there's a 10% chance that, like, GG's, right?
And it's interesting, because when you have to accept that as the reality,
exactly.
people will find a way.
Yeah.
That's kind of why ice types are used for their freeze immunity, and you can even get paralyzed on something purposefully so that it can't be frozen, or switch in on ice beams with something, so that if it does get frozen, at least your Chansey is now safe because of freeze clause.
Yeah, exactly. And like, no, yeah, that's true, because like freeze sacking and then like sleep sacking, and like because the whole thing, sleep is as strong as it is in Gen 1 as well. But then instead of just going, wow, sleep is broken, you go like, okay, well, I have to sleep sack something. I think this is my best option here. Like typically, like, I don't know, Eggy or something like that. That's a good point, yeah.
That's also what makes it hard for new players to get into, though. It's not very fun that you have to just accept getting statused, and there's very little you can do about it.
Yeah, no, no, you make a good point, because like a thing with Gen 1 that I think can be very disheartening to like new players is that you have to hold so much. There are so few answers to like there's not a lot of answers to some things that feel good, right? Like there's room for it, right? You can bring in Gengar on like a Lax Boom. That feels badass. Congratulations, that's cool. But if you get frozen, that's just like it, right? And if like the opponent has a Pokemon in that outspeeds you and like they've got a sleep inducing move, it's like, okay, do I just like risk a miss, or do I go to my sleep sack? And neither of those like feel good in the moment. And like obviously like, oh, I live a body slam, you switch in and it's like crit, and it's like that'll happen so much more often in Gen 1 than it does in other gens. And then like things like the prevalence of like body slam paralysis, like it's rough. It's rough. You have to play around so much in Gen 1, and the answers to it are often less like they're not concrete. They're just kind of like, all right, this is the best at putting up with this. And a lot of the time that doesn't feel amazing.
It can also feel a bit lame because the best type in the game is like normal, which by design is the most boring type. It's just neutral to everything. All the best moves are just big neutral attacks like Body Slam and Hyper Beam, so the whole idea of types, which is one of the most fundamental mechanics in Pokemon, doesn't really feel like it matters that much in Gen 1.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I mean, a good example of that is, well, maybe not a good example of that is the fact, like, Rhydon, like, dropping Rock Slide more often now, in favor of Leer. It's just like, okay, Rock Slide doesn't matter because I beat the brakes off Zapdos anyways. I can just Body Slam it to death, and what's it even gonna do to me? Yeah, I can just set up sub, I can click Body Slam all day, and Leer gives me a little help against, like, Reflect Lax. So that's actually a worthwhile trade.
I think that is a good example, because even Leer, which is like the most tiny advantage of all time, is more worthwhile than a coverage move. Like, coverage just means nothing in Gen 1.
But then again, that's in its own way, that's like a really charming thing about Gen 1.
Speaking of charming things about Gen 1, a Pokemon that you seem very fond of in your videos is Pinsir. What do you like so much about Pinsir? Is it like a childhood favorite, or did you grow fond of it from trying to make it work in competitive?
I can tell you the love for Pinsir is definitely almost entirely from like using it in Overused, attempting to make it work essentially, because like I think the first time I ever played Gen 1 was I think around 2015, 2016 maybe, and I was the worst. I was one of those people, right? I would look at the viability rankings, I'd see these good Pokemon, the good Pokemon that they are telling you to use because they are good, and if you're using good Pokemon, you will have fun, and I'll be like,
F that.
no thank you. I'm going to be quirky, and I'm going to use entirely shit ones. So I would use like Electrode, Gyarados, Victory Bell teams, and stuff like that. Just absolute trash, like complete slop. So I probably ended up using Pinsir around that point. But like even when I like just grew out of that and I was like, okay, let's actually play the tier a bit. Let's use good mons. I remember back on, I think it was the 2021 viability ranking. I think one of the lower mons was like Pinsir. And I think the Swords Dance mons in RBY are like super interesting because none of them are quite there, but they're so fun to make work, right? Like I think Kingler is like the big one. Kingler is like maybe the best of the Swords Dances in RBYOU. And it's like Swords Dance is like very solidly not quite it, but it's so fun to make work. And personally, Pinsir was just my favorite. Like it was pretty solidly the weakest of them. Man, I'm thinking about using Pinsir, and I'm like thinking about like how it maybe didn't quite do it. I'm not sure how I got so attached to Pinsir. I think it's just because I like bugs. I'm just a bug enjoyer.
I mean, he's a cool guy. He's an iconic design.
He is a cool guy, right? I think it was also the fact that like at the time he was the one bug. He was the only bug that like cooked to any degree. Even now, he is like the one bug that cooks to any degree in Overview.
It's kind of messed up when you search bug in the team builder for Gen 1, there is just nothing.
There's
a tragedy.
So nothing.
The best bug in the game, I think, is Venomoth by ranking.
Yeah, Venomoth is NU, I believe. And to be fair, it is like, I believe at the moment, it's like top 3 in NU, but it's like top 3 for like not very interesting reasons, right? It's like okay, it's fast, stun spore, sleep powder, congratulations. Well, I guess it has psychic too, which is kind of it's not very bug-esque. It's just mostly a status machine. But like Pinsir is like, there's something so badass about Pinsir because like it's I think Pinsir is currently PU, where it's not great. It might end up in ZU at some point, but it will probably, I would imagine Pinsir would be too much for ZU. But Pinsir's just like, Pinsir just hits stuff.
It's an honest bug.
It's an honest bug, yeah. It has so little, right? Because it has just normal and fighting moves. It cannot.
They forgot to put in bug moves.
No bug move. No bug moves. I cannot get over. Like, okay, like I know everyone's like done the thing. It's like, oh, Gen 1, the move distribution is so silly. There's all these good normal moves, and then fighting type didn't get good stab. Poison didn't get good stab. Bug didn't get good stab, and there's 2 rock moves in the entire game. It's so funny to me how like Bug was handled the way it was, because it's like, okay, there's 3 bug moves. There's like what, Leech Life, Twin Needle, and Pin Missile. And then 2 of them are exclusive to Beedrill. Like you only made this many, and you were like, all right, this guy gets 2 of them, and that's it. And then Pinsir didn't even get
any. It's a tragedy.
Pinsir is like Pinsir's like the definition of like it ain't much, but it's honest work mon. He's like kind of fast. His attack stat is very good, but obviously he gets no stab, and he has like basically no coverage. Outside of Seismic Toss, he's just not touching Gengar. He just shows up with no stab, decent stats. He does his best to set up a Swords Dance. He's got Bind, which is just like worse wrap. but like you can make it work, you know, if you really set your mind to it. And he's just like, all right, I'm just gonna show up, I'm gonna set this up hopefully, and then I'm gonna hit stuff, and I'll see where it gets me. There's something so respectable about Pinsir. It's great.
I think we can all admire Pinsir for his honest lifestyle. Anyway, moving on from Gen 1, are there any other Smogon formats you enjoy?
The big one for me is definitely Gen 3 OU.
Hell yeah,
and
folks.
I don't play like a ton of it. Hell yeah. Yeah, no, that is like my definitive number 2. I enjoy Gen 3. Like I'm nowhere near, like I'm already like not good at Gen 1, and I'm like even worse at Gen 3, but like I still just really enjoy it, and I do find it super interesting. I think, and another thing as well is I barely play it, and this one I feel bad that I don't play it as much. Gen 2 OU, I think Gen 2 is super interesting. I love hearing about Gen 2, right? I love listening to like videos on Gen 2, but I've just never like sat down and played it really, and I feel bad about that because I think it's like the least played OU, and I think that is a shame because I think that is legitimately like a shame because it had like that kind of bad rep of getting like I do think like again that kind of reputation that it gets maybe puts people off, but it is really cool in its own right. But Gen 3 is definitely my number 2, and I'd say yeah I don't play a lot more than that really. And to be fair, I've only really played Gen 3 OU. I've never dabbled in like Gen 3's lower tiers a ton, but Gen 3 is kind of like it's so different to Gen 1 because obviously Gen 3 has like the things with like EVs and all that, and I'm not good enough at the game to be like super familiar with the EV spreads and stuff. You know, I always forget to like calc for that kind of thing. I played in the Gen 3 Little Cup tournament not too long ago, and I felt so badass. I thought I did the Player of the Century. I had, what was it, Lead Elekid. And I think in Gen 3 Little Cup, Diglett is like incredible. And I think they went lead Whelmer, who was like the most common lead at the time. And I was like, you know what? I know Diglett's coming. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. And I click Focus Punch. It comes in. I'm like, I'm the god. And then of course it's like EV to live that. And I'm like,
oh wow, they thought of everything.
But I mean, hey, I got rid of the berry. Because like in Little Cup, like Cirrus Berry just like restores all your health. So like every Pokemon essentially has like 2 health bars, which is like very interesting in its own right. Unless you're Doduo, because like there's Choice Band, and that guy that's messed up. That Pokemon is so strong. But still, even when I'm like mostly just using sample teams and such, because I'm like I'm not familiar enough with the metagame to know what I should be EVing for and such. Gen 3 is awesome. I just think it's really fun, and like it's hard for me to get across why I enjoy it so much, just because of like my inexperience. But it is without a doubt my number 2, behind Gen 1. I really enjoy Gen 3. And I think it's just because a lot of Gen 3 Pokemon are Pokemon that I just like. I love Hariyama. I'm really bad with it. Hariyama is like a personal favorite of mine in Gen 3. I just think like pre-Gen 6 knockoff is kind of badass. Especially in Gen 3 where it's mostly attached to Pokemon that are like again, it's Gen 3 knockoff has that sort of like Gen 1 Swords Dance vibe where it's like it's very cool.
It's very powerful but very scarce.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it's very cool, but the Pokemon that it's attached to are all distinctly not quite there. But that's awesome, I think. It's like it's such a powerful strategy, but if you're committing to it, you have to like use some less than optimal Pokemon, like I don't know, like Hariyama, the Gold Armaldo. I
did a video recently about Armaldo.
I saw the Armaldo video. That was fun. I like Armaldo. I'm a big Armaldo enjoyer. Who else gets it even? I think Alakazam
Sableye gets it.
Sableye?
A while ago, there was a team by ABR, one of the best players, that experimented with Sableye. It's pretty interesting because it can come in against Claydol Psychic and knock off from there. Not terrible on like Stoli teams. It's also the only ghost type with Recover, which is something, and Dark Ghost is pretty good typing. Has terrible stats though, obviously.
Oh, that's interesting. Actually, I did not. You know, I hate to do this. You know what that kind of reminds me of? Like, it's the only Pokemon of this type with Recover, and it can come on in this very specific mon that has like huge RBYOU Porygon vibes, where it just like
it's probably a comparable level of viability and relevance to that.
That's fair, yeah. Yeah, it just like completely shuts one mon down, but outside of that, it's like, not quite there. I remember after I put it up, I got a lot of people like messaging me like, hey, I'm on low ladder. What the hell is why are all these Porygons here? Why did you do
I'm
this?
sure at the start of that video you clarified like, folks, don't use Porygon. It's a niche
that was
thing.
literally
Use
it. Was
normal
just
teams,
like,
please. But they never listen. They do it anyway.
No, they never do. And I get it because I never listened. Like I get it because that's why I say these things, because I've been there. Yeah. Like God, you want to make the funny guy work so bad because Porygon's just such a likable little goober. Like, of course you want to win with Porygon. How can't you? But then there was also like the side effect where people would run more Amnesia Lax because that was like the one Porygon, the one Lax set that it just had absolutely nothing on.
That's a bit effed. Can we let Porygon have his one thing? You seriously have a Lax that counts as Porygon? That's not okay.
You're just gonna kick him while he's down. Although to be fair, I don't think Amnesia Lax is like much of a thing at the moment.
Well, Porygon will have his day then. But anyway, let's move on a bit. I wanted to talk about one of my favorite videos of yours, which was your video about Waluigi in Mario 64 DS. I also played that game as a kid, and I fell for like the same rumors that.
Sorry, I'm cutting you off. I'm just so glad you brought that one up because I think it's maybe my favorite video I've done.
I think it is my favorite video of yours. I love that era of video game hoaxes that were semi-believable and when there wasn't as much information and also we were young and stupid.
Honestly, one regret I have, honestly, is like with that video, the Waluigi one, I wish I just like saved it for when I was just better at videos because I think it is quite an old one. But like it's a topic where like once you've talked about it, you can't really say much else because I do think that specific rumor, what was it, where you had to like kick the Mega Mushroom out of the guy and then you had to go wait in the white room for 6 hours to unlock Waluigi. To me, that's like the holy grail of like Mario 64 rumors because it gets something right that so many video game rumors at the time just kind of dropped the ball on. And that's that there's something that sounds like complete bullshit halfway through that's actually legit. And that hooks you so good.
Well, the reason stuff like that spread in the first place is because back in the day, there were crazy secrets in games. They don't really do that in games anymore. But, you know, think of like Mario 3 on the NES, all the secrets in that, like the flute and all that.
Yeah, it's just like, yeah, trust me, bro. You hold down on the iconic white block. Just trust me. No, give it another few seconds. Come on. Yeah. But no, I really do love that kind of culture because like I was a dumb kid on the internet, so like I ran into that all the time. And there was also like in Mario 64 DS specifically, there was I don't think I mentioned it in the original video, but a lot of people were like, hey, why'd you not mention that? And it was that black box on the title screen that's only there on the title screen, like on Peach's Castle. There's like a window that you can see that's not there, like in game. And people were just everyone was like, well, that has to be something. Like any little quirk had to be something because like there's a purple rabbit in the manual. That was a big one. They got people going like, oh yeah, that's Waluigi's rabbit. There's no chance that it's just like an early version of Wario's rabbit or nothing. No, that's Waluigi's rabbit. What else could it be? But honestly, a video I'd love to do at some point. I don't know when I'll get to it. I would like to do a few more maybe like silly vids once I've got the one I've done on because the one I'm on right now is like a very kind of like Snorefest informational video, right? It's like an hour long and I just yap about a character in a fighting game you can't play as anymore. Just, you know, that kind of deal. I would love to talk about like Mario 64 rumors and like rank them based on how likely I would be to fall for them as a kid.
That's a great idea. I would watch that, and I definitely fell for so many of those. L is real with the Luigi secret character.
That was like the big one. I think what Nintendo might have said at some point, either Nintendo said it or people were like, actually, I think it's meant to say Eternal Star. God, I remember as well, because people who would say it was like, oh yeah, that's L is real. That has to be L is real. People would be like, oh yeah, what you have to do is you have to collect the total of your coin totals across all the courses have to add up to 2,401. And then there was also people would say like, 2401. That's a reference to Paper Mario's release date. Even though, one, how would they know that making Mario 64? And two, it's not. It's a day off, which is like so funny. I mean, that's the thing as well that I loved about internet rumors. Like all logic went out the window, and it was just like it didn't matter.
Yeah, like why would they put this ridiculous sequence of things to unlock Luigi?
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't make any sense.
Why would there be a fifth character that you can only unlock after beating the game, right? Like, why would they do that? Why would they do that? People would say like, oh, maybe it's version exclusive, and it's like, come on, you're not gonna just put Waluigi in like the PAL version.
To be fair, there's some video game secrets back in the day were pretty messed up, wasn't it? Like in Melee, you have to leave the console on for 20 hours or something to unlock Mewtwo.
Oh god, I remember doing that. Actually, that reminds me. Actually, I remember like I did have a sneaky look through some of the questions like before hopping on, and there was a few about Melee. Do you actually like play Melee?
I used to play Melee back in the day from
oh really
like 2015 to 2020 on and off, but I eventually gave up on it because I found it too difficult and too time consuming.
That's very fair. I would maybe argue I'm more P+ pilled just because P plus is like the thing that my issue is that I juggle like a lot of fighting games. Like it's kind of the same deal with Pokemon where I don't actually have that drive to be like exceptional at one game. I just like being good enough to be able to play at a lot of them. Because like with fighting games, it's like I love Third Strike, I love Garo, I love like Exode plus R. But like the thing that's nice with P plus is I feel like P plus is maybe it's because it has like a smaller player base and it's just a bit easier executionally. It feels a lot nicer to just hop on P plus every now and again. And there's also the fact that the P plus scene is just like very charming because it's kind of like the P plus like brackets are always like we have to keep them secret from Nintendo, so they're always just like hidden in the venue somewhere. Nintendo isn't allowed.
Does
to know
Nintendo
about
really
them.
still care about that? I didn't know that.
No, yeah, because I was just in Birmingham, and there was a little P plus bracket, and of course it was labeled as Brawl. It had a fake start GG page that was just like completely not real. I love that kind of deal, honestly. What was it with Melee? Well, actually, sorry, I like brought up Melee and then I started yapping about P plus. I do actually like play a little Melee. I'm not very good at it, but I do enjoy it.
Who do you play?
I used to be. Well, I had a beautiful little journey because I played Bowser for 3 years straight.
Oh wow!
And I actually tried to make him work, but unfortunately, one fateful day, this talented babe comes up to me and she's like, "Hey, listen, your fundies are kind of okay, but this Bowser thing isn't working out, and now I'm a Puff player." So, but I am having more fun with Puff. I think Puff is just like more my style. I'm willing to just sit there for a couple minutes and just like you got to come to me.
I guess that's a good character to play if you're juggling multiple games.
Yeah, that's true.
A bit lower execution.
Not super executionally difficult. I'm more than happy to just sit there, but still very fun in her own right. And I would say I'm having more fun with the game, although I have nothing but the utmost respect for like Bowser players, because like the thing that always struck me about like Melee Bowser, he had like such a passionate like player base, not in like an aggressive or like way that would maybe put you off, but they had faith in their character in a really unique way where they weren't like tricking themselves into thinking he was better than he was, but they actually looked for things and they were like genuinely happy when they found them, right? Like he had a cool little tech that was called like the Shell Shock, where you would get his up B to trade. And it was like, oh yeah, that's like a Falco shine. Yeah, there you go. That's an important combo starter for him. And it's like such a specific thing that no other character would have to worry about. But like the little optimizations they got things out. They actually got use out of moves like down air, which was like at the time notoriously like god awful. This is a stretch. Melee Bowser had a little bit of that like RB charm to him, where people would find the tiniest things and they'd get so genuinely excited about it, like even if it didn't like change a whole lot for the character, because that character is like honestly, he's like anti-melee. He is a bit of a poetic tragedy of a character, but I even now that I've been like playing him less, he's infinitely charming. I absolutely have a soft spot for him.
He also looks very unique in Melee compared to other games, aesthetically.
Melee's got a strange art style. It really does, but it's kind of awesome.
Yeah, after Melee, all the Nintendo characters started to have very defined looks, but back then they hadn't figured that out yet. So like Yoshi looks a bit weird too in Melee, in a good way.
Definitely, Yoshi looks very strange. Yeah. I'm very attached to how Melee Bowser looks, but it is strange.
I think the Melee art style has aged quite well, to be honest. It's still pleasant to look at, in my opinion.
It is, yeah. No, that's true. I would argue that like maybe visually Melee has aged better than Brawl. Although that's very much a preference thing. Like it is literally as simple as, yeah, I like looking at Melee more.
You're also quite a fighting game enthusiast on your channel, and I've dabbled in fighting games a bit too. I quite enjoyed Street Fighter 6, actually.
Yeah. No, Street Fighter 6 is a strange one for me. And sometimes I actually feel bad that I don't play more Street Fighter 6 than I do. Because I literally made a whole video that was just like, yeah, I love this game. And at the time, I did love the game. And it's weird because the game hasn't gotten worse. Like, nothing has changed about the game to make me like it less. I just kind of, honestly, I think Street Fighter 6 was the first fighting game I got burnt out with, because at the time I was like grinding the hell out of that game. I was like, no, yeah, I'm going to get to master. I would hop on ranked. If I lost at ranked, I would actually get upset, which was like not like me in the slightest. And I think I just got really burnt out of it. And
that can happen when you get a bit too try hard with these games, for sure.
Exactly. I did get like a bit too try hardy, and I think it really just like burned me out massively. And I did have like a bit of a comeback. I came back to the game a little bit after Aki was added, and I thought she was a really cool character, because at launch I played JP. But Aki was like really fun and really charming to me. I enjoyed her a lot. And like I still really like Street Fighter 6. It's just kind of, I had a bit of an unfortunate experience with it, and I ended up not playing it maybe as much as I should have. Because the
So
thing
that's
is,
not common for you then, I guess, getting into the competitive side of a game really deeply
Yeah.
and grinding the ladder, trying
no,
to
absolutely.
become.
I am very much I'm an enjoyer, Andy. Like even with the fighting games that I really really love, I'm typically not like playing with randos very much. It is usually just my friends I'll hop on with, or I'll just like there's a small handful of discords that I'll ping now and again. I guess even though a lot of the games that I play are on Fightcade, I very rarely like ask for games in Fightcade. Um, it is usually just me going like, "Hey, do you want to hop on 3S?" And it's like, "Yeah, I'll hop on 3S."
I would really like to get into Street Fighter Third Strike someday.
Oh,
That game
really?
seems so cool. I love the art style
that's
and all the
awesome.
mechanics and stuff. I would definitely play Dudley. That's the coolest character.
Yo, Dudley enjoy it. That's so awesome. Yuri and Dudley, because I play Yuri in Third Strike. Yuri and Dudley is like maybe my favorite fighting game matchup. It's so fun.
Urian's quite good in Third Strike, isn't he?
Urian is quite good. He's like he's a filthy character. He's like maybe on the it's hard to talk about like how good characters are in Third Strike. He's like definitely because like you've got like Chun and Yun are like very obviously your like top two, and then there's Ken, who's just like I don't want to say obviously number 3 because there's like a debate to be had if like him or Makoto is better maybe. But then below them there's just this string of good characters. This string of like really strong characters who you see consistently. And Urian's maybe on the lower end of that, but the thing is like the situations where he's strong are so unbelievably messed up. He's a very volatile character because he's just got like the second he pops Aegis, it's just that you have to respect him so much. And then he's got things like unblockable setups. I think a big part of why I love Urian so much is because he's one of the more technical characters in the game, but also he has something that I feel like is a lot more prevalent in older fighting games, but personally it's something I enjoy, and that's that he's got a lot of character specific stuff, right? Like depending on the opponent's character, certain combos are going to work, certain combos aren't going to work. You might have to change your like setups and such, and I love that kind of thing personally, but I can't recommend Third Strike enough. I think it's unbelievably fun.
Someday in the future I'd love to get into it. Anyway, I wanted to ask you about your top 10 games list that I saw on Twitter.
Oh,
there's a
that's an
very
interesting one, yeah.
selection here. You got, I believe, Phoenix Wright number 2
Oh yeah.
or something.
No,
And
that's getting me to yap about Ace Attorney is dangerous. It's dangerous.
I played the first Ace Attorney on the DS when I was a child, and it was a long time ago, but I remember liking it. It was cool. It's a novel idea. Lawyer
No, absolutely.
simulator.
Yeah, this is like the spin-off series where you play as like Edgeworth, like the prosecutor from the game.
Oh yeah.
So like you're like primarily at the crime scene and such. So it's like there's very little. Well, there are a few instances that take place in a courtroom, but it's like the focus is like outside of the courtroom. But they're great games in their own right.
And you've also got here Super Monkey Ball 2.
Oh, hell
Fantastic
yeah.
pick. I love Super Monkey Ball. I think that's like a
Let's go. No, yeah. Any game where you can just roll the little ball around is. I'm a huge fan.
That's my exact kind of game. I love a game that's just like how many ways can we twist a single simple mechanic? It's the simplest mechanical game. You're just rolling a ball, but there's so much depth you can create around that one mechanic.
No, absolutely, and it's really fun to like optimize. Right? It's such a fun formula to get better at. And like a thing is like even me who was like never super good at Monkey Ball, you could kind of just like do something and like skip a bit of a level. And you'd feel so cool. You feel like you did so much with so little, and that's such a great feeling.
Agreed. Do you like Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze more than the original Donkey Kong Countries? I'm a big Donkey Kong Country 2 enthusiast. That's one of my top games of all time. I liked Tropical Freeze, but I think the originals are better.
I am a bit of a fraudster, I hate to say, because I've played Returns. My order was Returns, Tropical Freeze, and then DKC 1. I've never played 2 and 3. I've never played them.
I would recommend Donkey Kong Country 2. That's, in my opinion, that's the best platformer ever made. Well, I don't know.
Really? That's wild, because that's actually what I would say about Tropical Freeze. So maybe I'm missing out.
It's a bit like dated, and maybe it's not as polished, or like Tropical Freeze is very high quality. Donkey Kong Country 2 has a fantastic atmosphere. Best soundtrack in video game history, in my opinion. Amazing what they were able to do on the SNES. And
no, you're right, actually. There are so many good tunes in there.
It's rare that every single song in a game is good. There's always some random song that's not fan. You can actually listen to that whole soundtrack. It's all outstanding. It's all creative too, the way that they incorporate like environmental sounds into the percussion and stuff like that. It's like actually amazing.
Yeah, it's just win after win after win after win. Because obviously I've heard the soundtrack. Like that's like even if I haven't played the game, I've done that, and it is so unbelievably good. Weirdly, I don't think I've ever sat down and listened to DKC 3's soundtrack.
It's good as well. It's got its moments,
yeah.
but it's not as good as the other two.
Yeah, I mean that's quite, from what I understand at least, that's quite DKC3 in general. DKC3 is just like a good game, right? It's just like a nice, it's just a nice thing
Yeah.
you can enjoy after playing the other two, and it's like, yeah, that's fun. More of that thing I like.
I also love the pre-rendered 3D art style. Nothing looks like that anymore. It's a relic of its
Yeah.
time, but it holds up very well, weirdly. Because a lot of 3D from that time looks crappy now, but
No, absolutely. It's
that
aged
pre-rendered
incredibly well.
style, I guess that they gave the sprites so much personality, some of the best animations. And to think how long that would have taken to make as well, because they have to pre-render each frame.
And like one thing that, and what's weird is that when I was younger, that sort of put me off trying the original trilogy. I was like, wow, that looks so silly goofy. That doesn't look good at all.
It does look a bit weird.
But like now looking back, I'm like, shit, that was awesome. I think there is like a part of like having to appreciate how it was done, maybe. But I really like how the trilogy looks. Because I mean, I have played the first one, and that game looks fantastic. You know, it holds up so well. But I think I would personally still I'd put Tropical Freeze above 1 at least. I just adore how Tropical Freeze like feels, and like the challenge was like pretty just right for me, because like there's a few levels in DKC 1 that just aren't quite it, you know. Some of them
Is the one where you got like a light in this cave, and every time you turn around, it like flickers in a weird way. That was a bad one.
Yeah, and honestly, I think none of the water levels in DKC 1 are quite it. While in Tropical Freeze, they're like there's like good water levels in Tropical Freeze. Honestly, I quite enjoy.
That's true. It did have better water levels than most.
But no, I'm a big DK enjoyer. I mean, I like DK64 too. I like DK64 as well.
I do. That game
is. I
can't say it's good. It's actually incredibly flawed, but I do have a lot of nostalgia for that game.
It's a very charming game, right? It's very fun to think about.
Yeah, and fantastic soundtrack. That's like my most used soundtrack on my videos.
That's very fair. The soundtrack is fantastic. It is great. It's very iconic. But no, yeah, I do think, like, obviously it's a very flawed game. I do think it got this sort of weird rep of like this game killed 3D platformers, and it's just like that's a bit mean. It's a bit much. It's just like it's just a
they
good
went a bit
3D
too far
platformer
maybe, but it's got personality.
Yeah, it's just a good game that bit off more than it can chew. Really, it's just a bit unfocused, right? But like it's unfocused, but like that doesn't change the fact it just feels good to do stuff in, right? It's one of them games. It's just nice.
You could probably replay DK64 and have a good time for sure. It's solid.
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely. It's the kind of game where if you 100%ed it, you would maybe never do it again. But
who's 100%? I guess people have, but that sounds so not fun.
No, that's it. But then again, honestly, I feel like you can acknowledge that certain parts of a game are like not. Like, you can acknowledge doing something in a game is not it, and you can still turn around and be like, yeah, that's incredible. Like, obviously, I think a big one is, like, Undertale, right? Because Undertale has, like, the whole genocide route, and that's literally just not fun at all. But, like, the point of it is that it's not fun, really. And I don't think that, like, it existing lowers anyone's opinion of that game. Because, like, back when I first played that game meant a ton to me. And, like, I didn't touch the genocide route, and I didn't feel like I missed out on anything.
I also never did that in Undertale. I didn't really want to. I was like, I'm done with it. I actually started replaying the game, and then I was like, I've done this already. I'm good.
Yeah, I get that. It's just like, yeah, I don't need to do that to all those characters I like. Replaying a game that like is really like hinges on its character moments and its story. I feel like a while ago that's something I never could have seen myself doing, and like now, I was never a big replayer, honestly enough. I think weirdly the first game in like years. Yeah. The first game that I replayed to completion in years was Pikmin 1. Because it's a relatively short game to 100%. And I think even not on like a speedrun level, but just like doing the game but faster than you did last time is a really fun process. It's really rewarding. I would absolutely love to talk about. I mean, looking at this list, there's 2 series here that I would love to talk about in a video, but I don't quite know how to do it. Pikmin and Ace Attorney. I would love to talk about them in a video, but I have no clue how I'd do it. I really don't.
A lot of people asked if you would ever make an Ace Attorney video.
Yeah.
So I guess that answers that.
Well, actually, I guess I can knock out 2 questions with one, because like I do remember seeing a question as well, like, oh, what's your script writing process like?
Yes, that was yeah.
Yeah. And the honest answer is that there is none. With the exception of like 2 quite old videos I did. I think it's the fighting types in RBY one, and then one on a non-playable character in SF5. None of my videos are scripted. They're just like a series of bullet points that I'm like, okay, I need to cover that, I need to cover that, and then I just yap at the camera while covering the points until I get a take that I like, and I just do that like over and over again.
I do something similar with some of my videos, but some are scripted.
That's fair. Well, and I was about to say, like, that. I think it mostly works for what I do, but like that style of video, like scripting, has issues. I think it works really well when there's a lot of things you need to cover, and you need to just kind of belt out facts about those things. But it kind of completely falls apart once it comes to like opinionated bits on like a single thing, because like I wouldn't like know enough about the inner workings of Pikmin to like do like here's some cool Pikmin facts and here's the video about that. I would like to do a video about just why I love Pikmin and why I think the vibes
Well, you might have
are
to
really good.
script that, I guess. Maybe it's harder to do something like that off the cuff.
It's more of an opinion. It's more of like an opinionated piece, right? Just like, yeah, I played this game and I loved it, and here's why I loved it, and that I would have a harder time approaching. And Ace Attorney is very much the same deal, because like that's like the game is the story, right? And it hinges on its characters and its story beats and such. So it's kind of like, damn, how do I yap about this? I don't want to like, because especially Ace Attorney Investigations 2, which is just my favorite piece of media of all time. I don't know how I could talk about that game without doing like a multi-hour long video where I'm just like, okay, how do I talk about this game without like accidentally f***ing it up? Like, do I even have the media literacy skills to like express
I feel that
how
very
much this game means to me?
I vibe with that because, believe it or not, folks, I do have interests outside of Pokemon that I would like to make videos about, but it's hard to... Like a video about my favorite album or my favorite film or something.
Well,
it's things I would like to talk about. But it's a bit foreign. Pokemon's like a safe space where I know what I'm talking about a little bit.
No, yeah,
and I can just like click record and yap about it, as we've said.
No, that's so true. Like Pokemon, and that's not to like say like, oh, I talk about Pokemon because I don't feel like I can talk about other stuff, right? It's just like Pokemon is, I love talking about Pokemon, but there's not really any denying that it's easier to talk about Pokemon than it is to talk about some other things I've talked about on my channel. And that's not to say it's the easiest thing. I would maybe say that at least for me, yapping about Lego is easier than yapping about Pokemon. And like, I'd like to do more of that soon because that's very fun. I love pointing at little bricks and going like, yo, it's Rock 1.1 by 1 5 point, my favorite piece. Did you know that it was released in 6 sets last year in a brand new color? Isn't that great? But like I would love to. There are very much some things that I'd love to tackle in a video, and I'm just not sure how. And like Ace Attorney and Pikmin are the two big ones, without a doubt, because they're very like. I say Ace Attorney in particular is just like an intimidating topic for me because I've seen so many like incredibly good like Ace Attorney videos. I think I've watched like Nezumi VA's videos on the trilogy like multiple times each. I love those videos to bits. They're incredibly good. But like a lot of the things that I could make for good talking points with Ace Attorney for me aren't just things that I can yap about. They are things that would require very long like videos and like quite a bit of analysis, like why Ace Attorney 4 was my favorite of the main 6, or like why this game is just my favorite thing. I did have a phase where I was like, across I think all 40 cases in all 8 main games, there was one case I did not like, and I thought for a bit like, hey, maybe that's something I could talk about for a video. I could just talk about this one case and explain why I didn't like it very much. But then there's the issue of like, man, do I really want that to be my first Ace Attorney video? Like, this series means the world to me. Do I really want to talk about the one thing I didn't like? So it's like, it's a very hard topic to approach, I think. And maybe to be fair, maybe I'm just overthinking it. One of these days I'd love to try and give it a shot, like just buckle down and see what I can do. Maybe like a character analysis. Maybe that's a good idea.
I think that the way you evolve as a creator is just trying something that feels a bit scary. Because I think that the way that you get better at, you said media literacy, or being a critic, or making good observations, is just by having faith in your own beliefs, I think, and having confidence in what you think about something. Just putting that out there. A lot of it is just a bit of self-doubt about, is my opinion even valid? And then when you write a script, it leans more towards obvious observations rather than your personal attachment to the thing. Which...
No, you're absolutely hitting the nail on the head, because especially for like Ace Attorney, I feel like a lot of I'm like, man, do I have anything more to say than, yeah, I played this and I loved it and I thought it was good, right? Like, can I really compete with people who are like actually analyzing this intelligently? like it's so hard for me to express like why everything in this series means as much to me as it does, right? And like the lower hanging fruit, I guess, would be to talk about the stuff that I don't like. But then like, man, I don't know. I mean, one thing I was like, because I do generally try to steer away from just like talking about stuff I don't like on the channel, just because I think it's not as fun. Like I do remember after I did my FNAF video, I don't know if how often I've mentioned this. The only game I hate, there's one video game that I hate, and it's Five Nights at Freddy's Sister Location. I hate that game. I really do. It is the only game that I've ever played that I had like that I remember being distinctly excited for before it came out, that I would consider like a worthless piece of media with no redeeming qualities. I cannot stand that game and everything it tries to do.
Well, I will never be playing it then, I guess.
Yep. But people like asked if I'd do a video on it, and I'd just be like, no, it probably wouldn't be very fun. It would probably just me be going like, yeah, this kind of sucks, IMO. And I don't know if I could get anything fun out of that, you know?
Sometimes it's fun to be aggressively negative in a comedic way, like
absolutely.
Video about Iron Jugulus or
Good old Iron Jugulus. For me, I like to do like a little bit of it here and there, right? Like it's just like sneak a jab at something I don't care for occasionally is like maybe what I would do. Because like even in the latest Pokemon video, like there was the talk about Arbok getting banned from ZU, and it did actually. Not too long after that video went up, it got banned. And I'm glad, because I hated it. It was so annoying. And I think I said that in the video. I was just like, yeah, I hope this gets banned. I do not like him. And he got banned. And that was awesome. But like, I enjoy that kind of thing more than like an entire video just kind of going on and on and on about like, yeah, I really don't care for everything this thing tries to do.
It's true. I also prefer to be more positive most of the time.
Absolutely, yeah. I feel like it's just easier for me to be interested. I just find things I like more interesting, right? That's a big thing as well. And I think a lot of what I do kind of hinges on the fact that I find what I'm talking about interesting. There's no real getting around the fact that I am thinking more about things I really, really like than things that I don't like. You know, I'm not lying in bed at 10 p.m. and it's like, grr, FNAF 5 really dropped the ball. But yeah, I do generally try to have more of a positive lean.
I have to admit to you that I have not seen any of your videos about the Lego bricks. I think that they're funny conceptually, but...
I kind of love that, honestly.
I can't imagine what you're talking about for 20 minutes about brown Lego. I just can't imagine what is this video going to contain. Like, what is there to say?
The best part is, I know that video. That's a 30-minute video.
Oh, it's 30 minutes.
But no, I totally get it. I totally get it. And honestly, I kind of love that in a way, because the idea of just seeing a video show up in your recommended, and it's like, oh yeah, 30-minute video, the history of brown Lego, and it's like, wait, how? But to be fair, a lot of like the Lego focused stuff, a lot of the like talking points come from the fact that of like, oh, this piece appearing in this color for the first time. And there's also a little bit of, when it comes to specifically the Lego colors, teal and brown have this. If I talked about another color, I feel like I'd be a little stuck, because I'm not sure how many Lego colors have this kind of thing. Teal and brown have like interesting production histories.
Is it hard to get the color somehow?
Yeah, some of these colors are quite rare, but like a thing, like just as an example for teal, I'll spoil a little bit. Teal was a color that got discontinued. Like I think it came, I forget when exactly teal came to be, like produced by Lego, but in like the early 2000s they stopped producing it, because the thing with Lego was like in the early 2000s they were not doing well. They were broke as hell. They made a lot of really poor decisions, one after the other. They produced a lot of really like hyper-specific pieces that required hyper-specific molds. They were like creating like pieces in colors and then not using those colors ever again. And as a result, they became a lot more like cost-effective in like the mid-2000s and such. And with that, they ended up cutting a lot of like their old colors and their old practices and such. And teal was a victim of that. I think it was in... Actually, teal kind of got hit down the line later, because I don't think it appeared from 2005 to 2007. And then in 2008, one of the Lego set designers was approached with a decision. Hey, this set that you've made, is it going to be purple or is it going to be teal? And whichever color you don't pick, we're discontinuing. Which is like, and like this is history that like, maybe it doesn't sound super interesting, but it's just kind of, it's neat that all of this stems from like the history of like one brick, essentially, like the color of a piece of plastic. So I think Lego has again that sort of like, there's so much more to talk about than you'd expect by.
That does sound interesting, to be honest.
Yeah,
I have to add those to the watch later,
Hey,
folks.
I gotcha.
You
That's
got
how
me.
they get you.
You can maybe title that in a hookier way, like how teal bricks almost destroyed the Lego. I don't know, something.
Yeah. That's true. I do like having
make it
like,
sensational, like it's a big deal.
I should have maybe done that. Yeah, I do. Especially the brown one in particular is I know for a fact is not very grasping because it's like like that's a brown brick. That's not the most gripping topic in the world. But to be fair, I do like just having like very basic type. Also, I gotta say I didn't even notice it until recently. I love that your titles in your videos, you have like punctuation. Like not just like your typical like exclamation mark, question mark. You have like full stops in your titles. I think that's awesome.
I don't know why I
love
do that. I feel like it makes them.
I've never seen it.
It adds something. I can't explain what.
It does add something. I feel like it adds like how do I put it? It adds like an air of like confidence or like aggressiveness in a way. It's like, yes, this Pokemon is this, and you will find out.
I am the authority on all Pokemon information, and that's why.
Exactly. You are the authority on our motto.
And what is your least favorite Lego piece? Someone asked. Me, Mike, Sus asked that.
Least favorite Lego piece. That is a good one. This is like a really specific one, but I think my least favorite Lego piece is less like a piece in particular and more like a series of pieces that just kind of really affected something I liked in a pretty major way. And I would say it's in late Bionicle, early Hero Factory, where for the figures, certain figures, they would start using these really, really specialized pieces for limbs. So instead of the arms being built of like multiple pieces, or like very small pieces with like little bits of greebling on them, they'd be very large, chunky pieces that were like pre-bent limbs. So they had very limited articulation, and they looked less Lego-y and more like action figure-y. They had like an air of cheapness about them. And I think it was especially bad in like 2010 for early Hero Factory, because Hero Factory was like a really strangely handled Lego series in that Bionicle got cancelled. Hero Factory is a spiritual successor. And in the second year of Hero Factory, they came up with this entire new like system called CCBS. And it was completely new, completely unique, and it was really cool. They did a lot of great stuff with it. And it was a really nice way of separating Hero Factory from Bionicle. But the problem was that was the second year of Hero Factory, and the first year of Hero Factory was literally just like Bionicle again, but with all like the tiny like pre-bent, very fragile action figure-y looking pieces that made up the limbs, and it sort of gave people a really terrible impression of Hero Factory, and I think it ended up hurting the franchise a lot in the long run. On top of the Bionicle fans looking at it and going, "Oh, thing I like is gone. This new thing is stupid." You also had people looking at it and going, "Wow, this just looks not good." So it kind of, I think it hurt Hero Factory in the long run. So I would say that's made those are my least favorite series of pieces. I would argue.
Very detailed answer. That sounds like a video topic.
True, maybe it does. I would actually. That is something I would love to talk about. I think I planned to do a Lego video on that quite a while ago. Actually,
I never knew that Lego had a point of struggling. I always thought they were just a titan of the toy industry.
No, yeah, it is definitely.
That's
like
interesting.
It's an interesting.
I feel like Lego's overpriced. How do you afford Legos in this economy?
Oh, you are not wrong. The thing with Lego is, I think a big factor in Lego feeling overpriced is, well, one, you do to some degree you pay for what you get, right? Because the quality of the pieces are incredibly good. They, from what I understand, they have a very good like working environment, and like they're not like outsourcing the production of all their pieces and stuff. They use like very good quality material and such. Like Lego's standard of quality is very high. But another issue with Lego being as expensive as it is a lot of Lego now is like licensed themes, right? Like Lego Star Wars, Lego Minecraft, Lego, unfortunately, Harry Potter, which I've had a lot of fun pretending doesn't exist in all my previous Lego videos, but I know I'm going to have to acknowledge in the next one, which is unfortunate because there's like a very notable piece that appears in it, so it is what it is. But like they've got to like pay the license for all those themes, you know what I mean? So that jacks up the price a bit in its own right. But if you're looking at things like Lego's in-house themes, well, actually, they do jack up the price of like Ninjago and stuff a bit. There's some pretty notable Ninjago sets that are a bit like, wait, this maybe should not cost that much. But if you're looking at things like Lego Creator, for example, I think the Lego Creator sets are brilliant. They're like super reasonably priced. You get like decent little builds that like you look at the amount of parts in them and the size of the parts, and you look at the price and you go, yeah, that is, I'm getting what I'm paying for. And like a lot of the new Lego space sets that are coming out, it very much varies from theme to theme. But if you're looking in the right places, I think Lego, it's not as bad as it seems a lot of the time. Although then there's the whole issue of like getting into old themes, so you have to get the set secondhand, and then that's like an entirely separate issue. That's like a secondhand market, like price inflation kind of deal. But it is an expensive hobby. There's no way around it. So I very much I'll just pick up a set here and there, and that's where I leave it for the most part.
Seems like Lego is your premier specialty in life. You know everything. It's impressive.
It's very fun to yap about. I can't deny. Once again, it's a great thing in my yap repertoire.
I never really grew up with Lego. I like the Lego games though. The Lego games were fun.
Oh, true. There's a few I really like.
Lego Island. I played as a child.
Oh, you played Lego Island? Oh, that's like, I think, the first Lego game.
Yeah,
I wanted to stream it, well, not too long ago, but it's unfortunately, it does not mesh with modern computers well at all. I don't know how it happened. It's one of those games where the turning speed is tied to the frame rate, so if you play it on anything other than a potato, good luck.
That's funny.
Yeah, and there's a patch to fix it, but the patch to fix it, at least on my end, it has a ton of compatibility issues with like the patch that makes the game run at all. So it's like it's just like a catch-22.
There's a lot of great old PC games that are difficult to get running.
Yeah, it's super unfortunate. I'm not too like super old PC game pilled. I'm more very much in that like kind of 2000s era. I mean, which is kind of like evident with the things like Insane Aquarium and like Worms 3D. Insane Aquarium in particular, because those are the people who did like Plants vs Zombies, and they did tons of those kind of just like very casual PC games, like stuff like PopCap, that's it, like Bejeweled and like Zoomer and stuff like that. I'm a sucker for those kind of games.
Bookworm Adventure.
Oh, Bookworm Adventure. I've been meaning to play that forever. I've been meaning to play Bookworm Adventure forever. I love that kind of thing.
I played that as a kid, and then there was a whole saga of Donkey playing that. That was really funny.
Oh, I remember that. I remember that video where he's just like, oh, I guess I'm cooked, and he spells some absolutely humongous ass word that I cannot even remember, and he unleashes the ultimate bookworm.
It was like tumultuously.
Tumultuous. Tumultuous is a good word.
We got a pretty interesting question from Browser Junior 4707 for both of us, who asks, how is it possible for you to still be deeply invested in the media you're in without suffering from too much burnout? Does the variety from fighting games to Gen 1 to Lego to your multiple forays into tournaments add enough variation to enjoy each of them to the fullest, or do you experience burnout at a slower rate because of the variety?
That's a very interesting question. Well, one thing I do appreciate about that, I do like the idea, I do like the sort of acknowledgement that just because you're talking about more than one thing doesn't mean that you're not exempt from burnout. I do appreciate that, because I do occasionally feel it, for sure. And I can guarantee you, because like I started out just talking about fighting games, right? If I was still a fighting game exclusive channel, I think I'd be pretty miserable. I really think I would, especially since fighting games, I feel like a thing with fighting games is like I love them to bits. Out of all the things I talk about on my channel, fighting games are the thing that I'm most personally playing the most. Right? I just enjoy playing them more than anything else I talk about. But I feel like they are the hardest to talk about in video form. Like, a video I would love to do is something like the Orbs video, where I'm tackling multiple different fighting games. I'm talking about like different moves across different characters and things. But I find that really intimidating, because it's like, I feel like for a video like that to be very interesting, you have to have knowledge of multiple different games, and it's just like, damn, I kind of just like Guilty Gear and Street Fighter. This is a bit tricky for me. But I do feel that obviously like the fact that I talk about multiple topics does help a lot with burnout. Because I'm not much of a planner. I don't really plan videos very far ahead in advance. It is usually just kind of like, while I'm working on a video, I'll get an idea for another video I could make, and I'll be like, ooh, yeah, I would like to do that. So when I finish a video, I just kind of start looking into that topic, which, because it's wanted to do, I don't really feel burnt out. Granted, there are some videos where like the videos have gotten like really big in scale, and it really does kind of wind me, like the Magneton video, and like the to some degree the video I'm on right now, which is Abigail in season 3 of Street Fighter 5. Mainly because just like I've been trying to balance it with the fact that I've been traveling quite a bit. So like it's always at the back of my mind. I'm like, man, this is, and there's also the fact of like, man, because it's quite a long video that's mostly informative. So it's like you do kind of get that hit of like, I'm almost done with the video, but I keep getting that hit of like, damn, does anyone even give a shit about this? Is anyone even going to find this interesting? Like, at the back of my mind. So I think I do definitely struggle with burnout to some degree, but on the whole, it's not to a debilitating degree, because it's like the variety does a lot for me. And there's also the fact that like I have my stream, which like I don't feel obligated to just stream things that I talk about on the main channel. Streaming is very much just kind of like an opportunity to unwind for me. And while like traveling to events and such can be stressful in the sense that like, okay, I'm traveling, I'm at something, I'm at an event, I'm at something else, that means I'm not getting work done. But as an opportunity to, you know, just be there and enjoy it in the moment, it's fantastic. It does quite a lot for me. And there's also the fact that I don't go to, well, lately I've maybe been going to traveling a bit more than I usually would, but for the most part, I'm not like, I don't feel the need to go to every single thing that pops up. Like, I'm not traveling again until June, which is, you know, it gives me a bit of a breather, gives me a bit of time to focus on other things. Honestly, I feel like it might even be less of a burnout thing and more just kind of like in the moment I tend to worry about the video I'm making like currently, right? Like I just kind of lose faith in it as I'm working on it. But like it is usually just me overthinking things, because I get the video out and then people are like, yeah, that's a cool thing you did. And I'm like, damn, I was worrying over nothing. That was silly of me. So it is very much something I struggle with to some degree. And there's also like the thing poking at the back of my mind of like topics that I would love to talk about, but I don't feel like I'm ready yet. But overall, I feel like I don't struggle with burnout to like as much as I could. And like the fact that I have that variety does a ton for me. So it's like, it's something that's there, but it doesn't hold me back to a huge degree, I would say.
Interesting answer. I guess we have a bit of a different process for videos. My thing is absolute spontaneity, and I don't even give myself enough time to overthink or doubt, because I'm trying to make the video as quickly as I can and just have complete faith and confidence in how I'm currently feeling. So I make videos quite quickly, because I think making videos quickly benefits you. Everyone has a different process, but for me it's like, if you just strike while the iron is hot and don't even give yourself enough time, like not only are you making videos more often, you're building the creative muscle, I guess.
Exactly. And like you are kind of striking the iron while it's hot. And I think the thing is because you're focusing on like Gen 3 and like you...
Yeah, I don't have the variety that you do. I'm just Pokemon.
But the thing that is an upside to that is because that's what you focus on, you have a much... Like your knowledge of Gen 3 is much stronger to the point where you can... Like, as soon as something pops up, you can make a video on it and it holds up, right? Because you're just kind of right? Because you just know more about the meta.
Yeah, I can.
Right? So
making a Gen 3 video is very comfortable for me, just because it's the game I've invested most time into. I have the most knowledge of. If I do videos about other stuff, I have to research it. It takes a bit more energy and time.
Exactly, right. Like I have a lot of that, because it's like, especially with fighting games where like the resources aren't always, you know, amazing, especially for the lot of the things I want to talk about, where I'm talking about characters that you can't even play as in the base version of the game. Like I really got to like dedicate some time to just like messing around with them and going like, okay, this does this does that. And like I enjoy doing that to some degree, but there is it does kind of... That's why I would like to do, like, when I got the opportunity, I'd like to do some more videos that are like maybe stream highlights, or maybe again like I said, that like Mario 64 rumor video where like it's less of a there's less of that research element, where it is just an opportunity to sit down and talk about things that I like to talk about.
There's something to be said for simplifying the concept to make it more manageable for yourself.
Absolutely,
and
yeah. I feel like
that's a creative challenge as well, of making something in a shorter period of time with maybe more restrictions. Is like Herb's your ambitious side, and you just focus on one thing at a time.
That makes a lot of sense, yeah. Like it is, you do see creators where like what they do is they will do big video after big video after big video, and it's like, you know, it's consistent. Those videos are typically extremely good, but you do kind of wonder like that's got to be quite taxing, right? Like you finish a huge video, and you've immediately got to start looking into a topic that you care a lot about, but you might not be the most familiar with. You know what I mean?
I really admire channels like that, because it must be difficult. Like Jacob Jella, I don't know if you've seen his videos. They're very...
Oh, have I? I think I have. I think I've seen one, but I think it was just the one.
The topics vary so much, and they're so detailed and researched, and very good production. He must just have a very solid process behind it.
That's fair. Yeah, my process is a bit disastrous because it's like everything I do, it's mostly just me outside of hitting people up to go like, wait, hey, I'm not talking out my ass, right? This is like correct. And actually, that does kind of remind me, like one thing that's like you can kind of see where my process like kind of catches me a bit is in what was it, the new video about like recent developments in RBY's lower tiers. Like I think a few different points throughout the video, I like have to chime in and say, hey, when I sat down in front of my microphone and said this, it was true, but now it's not, because like there was like a bit in the video where I'm talking about mons that are like controversial. And then after that section wraps up, I have to chime in and go, hey, suspect tests have started for them. And there was also the whole thing with that video, just like me biting off more. This is another issue with kind of the way I the lack of me scripting my videos. You sometimes don't know how long a video is going to be before you actually sit down and start talking into a microphone, and then you start dropping the clips in. Because that video was originally supposed to talk about OU as well. But even without OU, it's like 45 minutes. And sometimes you really kind of end up biting off more than you can chew when you don't know exactly how long a video is going to be. Because there is that sort of like drive to like, okay, I got to cover everything. I want to talk about everything there is to offer. Just I might as well just like, because like because like I want to be as thorough as possible, and two, because I just love talking about it. But then you kind of have it all together and you're like, wait, this is going to be, how am I going to get through this?
Well,
this seems like a bit of a nightmare.
The OU part could just be its own video.
Yeah, that's what I'm planning to do down the line.
Got another question from I was Shine. Says, I would like to ask how YouTube affects their personal, professional career, and what are their main goals and aspirations in the field of professional work, if not as a content creator?
Ooh, funny story. At the moment, this is kind of all I do.
Oh, cool.
Like, this is my primary, I guess, job. It doesn't really feel like a job. I'm not really in a situation where it, like, has to be, like, a job, in a way. But, like, it is, I guess it's my primary source of income, what I do. And it works fine as that for the time being. Like, there is that kind of, like, inherent inconsistency of, like, you know, but like, every creator is going to have to deal with to some degree. I mean, I do have a degree. I kind of forgot what it was in, but I have that. So if, you know, if things aren't working out,
I forgot.
You know, yeah, it's some kind of design, something to do with graphic design. It's a safety net. It's a safety
right.
net. But to be completely honest, my aspirations are really just to keep doing what I'm doing. I really, like, I know we've talked about a lot of things like burnout and such, and like, you know, oh God, I wish I could do this, but I don't think I'm ready yet and such. But I do genuinely love what I do. I love that I have the opportunity to do it, and I would like to just keep doing it to the best of my ability. You know what I mean? I
do know what you mean. It's me as well.
Yeah.
This is like the ideal job for me. I'm very thankful.
Yeah, for sure. Like, it is kind of just like, this is the thing that I feel like I do the best. Like, it like doing YouTube is like the first time I really feel like, hey, this is a thing that I'm doing, and I'm doing a really good job. It's like the first time where I've received like consistent positive feedback on something, on like a creative endeavor, I guess is the best way I can put it. It is very much just kind of a just keep it up kind of deal, but I would like to just keep doing what I'm doing to the best of my ability. And I guess like the closest thing to like aspirations I would have would just be to, you know, talk about new topics that I haven't had the opportunity to talk about yet.
Have you got any grander goals for like the far future, like something you've always wanted to do? Like me, I always wanted to design a game. I don't know how that would ever happen, but it's something I've always wanted to do since I was younger. Or like
that's valid.
Stuff like that.
I think I used to think about that kind of thing, but I'd have to think about that. I feel like at the moment the closest thing I have to that is literally just making big, huge like passion project videos. I mean, the big dream for me is, I mean, it is literally just a video, but at some point I would love to just sit down and do a video like why Ace Attorney Investigations 2 is my favorite piece of media. That would be a long ass video. It'd be hard as hell to do. I don't know how I'd do it, but that's just like a video that I really like the idea of it existing in my head, because it's just like, out of everything I've ever like experienced, that's like the thing that I feel like I need to talk about the most. Other than that, in terms of aspirations, I would like to, I mean, I know I talked about like I don't really have a lot of drive to be better at the games I play, but I love going to like tournaments and such for like like Melee, like Smash specifically, just because I feel like the vibes tend to be cooler. Smash tournaments just have a bit of a sillier vibe to them. It's just kind of charming. You know, it's more of like a social gathering that there happens to be like video games at. But I do need to go to more FGC stuff as well, for sure. I would like to just do better at them, right? You know, I would like to get on a top 8 graphic every now and again. It's just like I don't. It feels weird. I don't have any real huge lofty goals or aspirations.
You've figured yourself out already. You've got.
Yeah, that's literally it. Like, I am just kind of happy doing what I'm doing now. So a lot of my like kind of achievements are like
That's great.
pretty small in scope.
I suppose I'm the same, but I do have the fantasies occasionally of like doing something really big and ambitious and cool. You know.
ADVOU 2.
I would like to make some game that's inspired by Pokemon mechanics and like the parts I like about them.
That would be awesome.
I feel like there's no Pokemon style fan game that really has clicked with me that captures what I like about the games. I really like the mechanical systems. I don't really like the monster catching RPG elements. I'm all about the gameplay. Like, I've always played simulators, so I would love a game that focuses on that.
That is a good point, actually, because like there are a lot of like the sort of, like, for lack of a better term, like poke-likes, I guess. Like they're
good.
They're very good, but the focus is very much on the adventure, right? And a lot of like the differences in their battle styles, it's not. It feels less of like an improvement on the Pokemon formula and more of like, okay, let's do our own thing. Let's make a cool adventure where you catch monsters, and then for this we'll do our own thing. So you kind of wonder if there's like room for a game that just does its own thing with the battle system and more improves upon it.
Love something that's more inspired by the design of like deck builders or roguelike type games, where it's all about playing with synergies and like creating a team over time in a roguelike type of game. And like that'd be, you know, the fundamental mechanics of like held items and the Pokemon
that's
analogs.
That's a very cool idea, yeah.
Because I love those games. I love, like, one of my favorite games is Slay the Spire and
that's super
Spelunky. I love any game with RNG elements and
like playing around them, like playing around with what
and
such.
The variation that creates in the gameplay.
Yeah. No, I did play a bit of Slay the Spire. I never ended up finishing it, but I did genuinely enjoy what I did play of it. I think I just like moved on to other things at the time. I mean, I hate to say it, the closest thing I have to a game like that is probably Pikmin 2 with all the fucking caves, where it's just
never
like
played it.
you'll throw. I cannot. Pikmin 2 it's interesting. It's like Pikmin 2 is the meanest game I've ever played. It hates you. It hates that you're playing it. It's so mean to you, because it will just like drop you in a cave and present you the most fucked up scenario you've ever seen in your life. And then you just go in there and you deal with it with what you're given, and along the way, they'll just like drop an insta-kill hazard on you randomly or something like that. It is a brutal game, but I wouldn't have it any other way. It's a very hard game to sell people on who like don't know much about it, but I think it complements the first game perfectly in a very.
It does sound like a very hard sell. I do love that.
Yeah. Nintendo
occasionally just takes risks like that with these out there ideas. It's cool.
Absolutely.
Pikmin is a very creative concept.
No, absolutely. Pikmin it's a series that's really like sort of captured my heart, because I played 3 when it came out and it didn't really do anything for me, and then like revisiting 1 on a whim, like for streams and such, and was like, oh wait, this was beautiful and I loved it, and then I hopped straight into Pikmin 2 and I was like, oh, this is entirely different and also really fucking mean to me and 3 times as long, but I still loved it and I wouldn't change anything about it.
Sounds intriguing. Maybe when I have the time, we'll explore the Pikmin franchise.
I definitely recommend it, especially 1, since like it's quite a short game, right? You can just like hop in and use.
I'll have to do that one day. Bucket Boy 115 asked, Big Yellow, who's your favorite Dragon Ball character? Do you have any fondness for Dragon Ball?
I have no fondness for Dragon Ball.
Really?
I'm so sorry. No.
I thought that question was like based on something you said in a video or something, but just a more random question.
No, I've never watched any Dragon Ball in my life. The only attachment to Dragon Ball I have is I bought Dragon Ball Fighter Z on a whim, because Broly was in it. And I at the time when I was playing fighting games, I was fully in my like big character plus command grab equal funny phase. And I was like, this is a big man with a command grab, I want him. And then I got the game, played it, and I was like, this game's too hard for me, I don't get it. And that's literally my only Dragon Ball exposure.
Well, my favorite Dragon Ball character is Piccolo, Bucket Boy, if you were wondering.
I don't know much about him, but I know he's a cool dude.
He's a green guy?
He is a green guy.
You like any other anime or other media?
Weirdly,
films
no,
and such?
I've never been very anime pilled. I haven't watched much anime at all. And actually, I haven't watched any in years now that I think about it. And I'm not a huge film buff either, funnily enough.
Just a gamer, folks. A gamer through and through.
I hate to say it. I am a gamer. I'm a gamer through and through. Where normal people be watching a movie, and I'll just like throw on a 5-hour video breaking down the Shrek franchise and throw it on in the background. I'm just like, yep. Well,
Shrek is a film, so that really.
This is true. I like Shrek 2. I really like Shrek 2. Shrek 2. Oh, yesterday was I think it was Shrek 2's 20th birthday.
That's a good movie.
Big. That's a very.
Did you watch Puss in Boots, the new one? That was amazing. I loved it.
Oh, it was so good. I did adore that movie. Absolutely. It's wild how much better it was than the first one, because the first one's just kind of like,
yeah, it was out of nowhere. But that movie was my favorite movie I watched in a while. Well, in terms of like the big animated studios, I think it's the best in ages.
No, I would absolutely agree. And it's weird. I think it maybe holds up as like DreamWorks' best movie in quite recent memory. It's
absolutely
really strong. I haven't seen everything they've done since then, but I know Kung Fu Panda 4 was a bit of a wash, which is unfortunate. But I did really like 1 and 2, and 3's good too. 3's good too. I'll be nice to 3.
I recently watched that trilogy. I thought 3 was the worst, but it was alright.
Yeah, I think that's the general consensus. But it's still.
I was surprised by Kung Fu Panda 2. I thought it was like surprisingly thought-provoking. Actually, it was quite good.
Yeah, no, I think the general consensus is that 1's the best, but I think 2's maybe my favorite.
I liked 2 the most as well. I liked it.
Yeah, 2 has some really like strong moments in it, like especially near like maybe the end of the second act. There's some really like you said, there's some really thought-provoking stuff in that movie. Like they really just give Poe like this genuinely beautiful arc with like coming to terms with grief and stuff. And it's like, damn, this is the funny panda movie.
What other questions have we got from the fans? What video are you most proud of from Biro the Ukrainian? Be it execution or idea?
Ooh, video I'm most proud of. That's an interesting one.
The Waluigi one?
The Waluigi one. I'm really, really fond of the Waluigi one, but I think one thing that slightly holds it back is like I said, I kind of wish I made it when I was just better at making videos. You know what I mean? Because you can you can tell it's like quite old, right? And it's a topic that's really like quite. Ooh, I'm having a look. I feel like a few contenders would definitely be like the Orbs in fighting games video. I'm very, very fond of that one. Honestly, I'm super duper happy with my latest one, the recent developments in RBY's lower tiers. I love that. Like, it was quite difficult to get the whole thing done, but I'm really proud of what it ended up being. Weirdly, this is actually, no, I know. One that I'm very fond of. I think it flew a little bit under the radar, I think, but it's the video talking about why I genuinely loved Street Fighter V. Because I think that's a topic that no one was really going into deep on. And I did genuinely love that game, because it's a game that has like a really bad rep, specifically because of its launch. But I think near the end of that game, it really did become something super special. And as a result, I am genuinely quite proud of that video.
I like Street Fighter V. I had some friends who were competitors in my local scene. It's true that game does get a bad rap. It was okay.
Sure, yeah. But I think it holds up. Well, maybe it doesn't hold up, but I think it became something really special. And actually, the video that just like crossed my mind, what's it? Because like I'm very much done with fighting game garbage and such, that whole series and stuff. But there's 2 fighting game garbage videos that I think actually hold up to some degree, and I'm quite fond of. And those are the one on Hugo and Second Impact, and specifically mainly the one on Breakaway in Mortal Kombat 11. And I guess off the top of my head, a few other things that I'm like, I wouldn't say I'm like, they're not videos that I'm like, I would put them on a pedestal above other things I've done, but I'm really happy with the video on like my peculiar experience with Mario 64 DS, just talking about how like stupid stuff I did growing up with the game.
I've got that one on my watch later.
Also, no, I'm very happy with that one. And then also like the Tomodachi Life supercuts. Those are just really, really fun to do.
It's interesting how you can develop a fondness for a topic you didn't expect to have just by researching it and kind of making a video on it. That's happened to me too.
Genuinely, yeah.
It's some of my proudest videos are some that I didn't think much of at first, but as I was making the video, I was like, oh, this is evolving into something kind of interesting, actually.
No, I absolutely get it. I definitely get it, right? Like, and then like when it's up, and then you get that sort of like positive feedback, and people are like, yeah, that is interesting, actually. It's like, wow, yeah, they're kind of validating in a way. It does make me like it more.
When I made that video about Shedinja in Callus Invitational, that just happened, and I made the video like right after it happened, and I was talking to Super Epic Ampharos, the player who brought the Shedinja, about it, and I was like, this is insane. I got to make a video right now. I didn't even like think about it really. And then I think that's my best video I've ever done, because it's just
awesome.
pure spontaneity.
That's kind of awesome. That kind of thing of just like you see something incredible happen, and then you immediately have to go like you immediately feel like you have to talk.
I was
about
in the
how
middle of
incredible it
writing
was.
another script. I was like, F that. we're doing this.
I love that. That like just like the passion really shines through. Like when something just happens and you recognize how incredible it was, and you're like, I need to get on this right now.
That's why I like to strike while the iron is hot. I think it creates the best results.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You really do, like there's no time for like the kind of fire to fizzle out in any capacity.
Question from the gentlemanly Isopod, and a few people had similar questions. How has it been to experiment with your gender expression while being a popular figure on the internet?
Oh, that's like it's really interesting how that's gone, honestly, because and it's tricky how to word it really, because it's very much something that just kind of happened. Because like people do point out a lot, like, hey, I watched a video of yours from like 2 years ago, and now I'm watching this one. Like, what happened, right?
Right. Yeah.
And it's sometimes I like don't know how to word it the best, because it's kind of like I do occasionally get comments of people talking about like how I've like expressed myself over time and how it's like an inspiration and such, in terms of like them expressing their own gender and coming to terms with like who they are and like expressing themselves like I guess like coming out essentially. And like it's beautiful, because obviously you want more people to do that. Like that's good, and it's just nice that they're inspired to like go forth with being the best version of themselves that they can be. But for me, it was very much just kind of it just sort of happened, right? Like I did kind of come to terms with like like maybe like I am non-binary and such, and sort of like I didn't make a huge, like I have obviously changed like in how I look and such and how I present myself in my videos and like I have had people point out you seem more confident, more happy in some of your later bits, and I definitely feel it. It's just nicer being a version of myself that I'm happier with, I guess. But I guess one thing that catches me is that I haven't had to go through the same process that some people have, right? Like, because I'm non-binary, but like I use any pronouns. I don't if I don't feel, I'm not being reminded of like a part of myself that I used to not like when someone uses like he, him, or she, her, right? And like I never needed hormones or surgery or that kind of deal. Like well, I think I'm on something, but I don't think it's hormones. It's just like finasteride, which I think is like, I've heard called a lot of things, but I think it's mainly for hair, like to deal with hair loss. Which maybe that sounds silly, but I did notice I've got a bit of a bald spot on the top of my head, so I'm trying to deal with that. But that's kind of unrelated, I guess. It's it's kind of tricky how to express it, but like sometimes I feel a little bit like inadequate in a way, or like I have that sort of self-doubt in that like being someone that like because people have kind of said now and again like that they look up to me since I'm like a openly queer person, just like as a creator. And I know I haven't been through the same journey or like struggles that some people have who are in like a similar boat. And there's also the fact that like, because a big factor in me being more open and more comfortable with who I am is like the fact that I have an audience, right? And my audience is my community and such. They're brilliant because they're so nice about it, right? It's really nice getting that kind of positive.
Was there any fear of how they might react, or did you not think about that too much?
Absolutely, there is a little bit of that, and obviously every now and again you get the odd very interesting hit and comment, right? But the thing is, like for me, when I get that kind of thing, you know, someone going off in the comments, you know, like for me, I can see that, and I'd not have it bother me so much because I have that like stream of positive feedback. And I can like take that and I can show it to people and go, look at what this guy said, right? And have a bit of a laugh about it. But I understand that like it can be a lot of people don't have that, right? A lot of people they might be closeted, they might not be in an environment where they have that kind of support, because there's also that too. Like I have my family supportive of who I am. and I live in Ireland, right? So I'm not living somewhere like the UK or the US where like LGBTQ plus people are just constantly being thrown under the bus for like no reason. So it's just like harder for them to be who they are, and they've got so much more going against them. And I guess that's sort of it, like why I feel a little bit more inadequate, because it's like, damn, can I really be like, it's like I am openly queer and such, but it's like, can I really be sort of like a role model or someone people look up to in that regard if I haven't really been through the same kind of things? Like in a way, I almost feel like I've had it too easy, sort of, I guess. So there is that sort of like internal self-doubt. But either way, even if I'm not the best at getting it across, it has been a really nice experience, just like getting to express who I am more and people being very nice about it. And there is like that thing as well of people like who say they've been kind of inspired to be more open with who they are as well, or like come to terms with it. And, you know, even if I don't always know the best advice to give, or I'm not very good at wording it, like that's beautiful in its own way, right? Because it's like it's just objectively good for people like that to be striving to be the best version of themselves that they can be, and just getting any kind of positive influence that makes them feel like they can have an easier time doing that. So yeah, I'm maybe not the best at getting it across, but it has been a really nice experience.
I don't think you have to be an expert at articulating these complex things, but as long as you're showing by example that you've, you know, done this and you're happy, I think that has a positive impact. And even if in the country you live in, like maybe it's more accepting or an easier experience than other places in the world, but to do it openly on the internet is also something people probably appreciate, because, you know, we're living in tumultuous times with these topics, especially online. Exactly. People are very extreme, and so because like that's the thing as well. Like when I get the occasional like comment about it, I can like laugh at it, but I understand that some people, if they got that kind of thing, that would really hurt them, right? Even if it was just one, and even if there were a lot of positive comments to balance it out. But well, it is just a comment on the internet, and maybe people can learn that that's nothing to worry about, you know. It's just
that too. Like it'll affect different people, different amounts. You know, that's how it is. You know, I guess I'm just trying to say, like, it's anything that pushes these people to be the best version of themselves is important, because like the world's a better place with them being the best version of themselves that they can be. You know, they deserve to be happy, essentially.
Absolutely.
Hell yeah.
One final question, quite an ominous question from Aiden2276.
Oh hell yeah.
Big Yellow, will you fulfill the prophecy?
Will I fulfill the prophecy?
Well,
will I fulfill the prophecy? Well, I don't know what you're talking about.
Well,
what did I have to do with the prophecy?
What was it in Dune? Like, they'll be born to our ways as if... I've ruined it. That's not what it was. Born of salt and smoke, under a falling star.
Under a falling star. I'll be real. I could never fulfill a prophecy. I couldn't do it. If I just like woke up one day and found out that I had I had to go on a quest, you know, it's like, oh, you gotta save the world by collecting all the gem emeralds scattered throughout the land. I'm like, man,
Can I not?
I kind of wanted to talk about Ace Attorney 4 instead, actually. I think I'd rather do that. But if that was the prophecy, I'd be very happy.
I think that's probably not the prophecy. It's something more grandiose. Folks, Big Yellow will not be fulfilling the prophecy.
Yeah, unless like yapping about, I don't know, purple Lego would happen to save the world. In that case, I'm your guy. I got your back.
I hope that comes to pass.
Fingers crossed.
Big Yellow, thank you very much. What a fantastic conversation.
No, yeah.
Many twists and turns.
No, thank you. No, it's been really nice getting the opportunity to come on, and I hope I didn't just like yap too much and just kind of like...
That's what you do best. It's what we want, folks, isn't it?
I am a yapper. I'm a tangent-pilled yap cell. I can't help it.
You remind me of BKC. When I talk to him,
oh, really?
He goes on a lot of tangents, but it's lovely to listen to, isn't it?
That's fair. I mean, to be fair, BKC is one of my favorite channels to, like... I'm very much someone for, like, just putting a video on in the background and doing what I gotta do. And he's someone my go-to for that. And it's weird, because I feel like I haven't watched a lot of his more recent stuff, but, like, I've listened to that video about like fire types in ADVOU like 5 times, and every time I'm just like, yep. I love hearing about Blaziken. Tell me more. Let's have a little laugh at Flareon. Come on.
He's got some classics.
Truly, absolutely.
Thank you once again. That's it, folks.
No problem.
This is insane.
Oh, this is insane.
This
I
is
should have said that
insane,
earlier.
yeah.
That's a good point.
Thank you.
Better late than never.